Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do some UV unwrapping. In order for us to do this, we first need to set up some seams. So what I'm going to do is, this is the bevel area that we had before. You can see the area it runs there. So this runs along the outside. So I want to select all of these along the outside. So Alt and right click, just, wow, it magically selected all of them. So Control E, we're going to mark that as a seam. I'm going to do the same on this side. Once again, we're lucky, it selects all of them. Mark that as a seam. And then just this bottom, so all the way from that connected piece to that one there. So we don't want those pieces. And hit Control E, mark seam. And then the same thing on this side. Control E and mark seam. Now this is your very basic UV UV unwrapping. So we're going to split the view, go into the UV editor, and I'm going to select all of this and hit U and click unwrap. And that is actually pretty good. As you can see, this is our bottom piece, that piece over here, and this is our side piece all the way unwrapped. So you see that piece is that part over there and all the way unwrapped. So you can straighten these out. I'm going to straighten them quickly. I'm not too worried about the bottom piece. So I'm just going to scale this down a bit, because it's going to be very rare that we'll see the bottom piece of this concrete barrier. So, but we are going to see these side pieces. So let's rotate this. Just move it out. This I'm going to scale down a little bit so that I can fit this one in. And then I'm going to scale this on the x-axis. Maybe scale it on the y-axis, make it a little bit smaller, just in case we have any seams bleeding over. So, whoa, okay. Sorry, hit the Windows key there. So I want to select holding Control and right clicking. Then I'm going to scale all of this to the y-axis and scale it to 0. Nope, apologies, scale to the x-axis, scale it to 0. Then it will flatten out all of those. So repeat the process. We're going to do the same for the y-axis. So you want to get your seams nice and straight, actually, or your model nice and straight. It's not required. You could have gotten away. You would still have a very good looking model if you did not do this, but I prefer to work it because we're going to take this into an external program. Just so that we have some straight seams to work with, and then we know exactly what part of the model we're busy editing. Otherwise we would have to try and guess, and yeah, it will be a mess. Let's just say it like that. Alright, so that's all of them. They look pretty decent, pretty straight, and yeah, that's our UV map. So let's quickly create the texture. 2048 by 2048. I work in high resolutions. You can work in 1024 by 1024. That should actually be enough. Even 512 by 512 should be enough for this model. But because I work with using photograph references which were taken at high resolution, I like to keep my model texture roughly about the same resolution as the photos I'm working on. I'm going to call this the bake, and then we're going to Alt H to unhide the high polygon model that you probably forgot about. It's still there. I'm going to right click to select the high polygon model, just make sure that it's the first one selected, and then hit Shift and right click again, and it will select the low polygon model. You'll see there's a little blue part over there, and the other one is also selected. You're going to go over to your render options. Here at the bottom where it says bake, change this to normals, select it to active. The margins I want to set low because I'm using a high resolution texture. We won't have any real texture bleeding over. And then I'm just going to make sure that, just make sure that it will be the right one selected. Let's see what happens if we hit bake. Alright, so I got an error with the bake because for some reason I didn't create texture. I don't know what I did, but anyway, so I made it again. There we are. So go back into object mode, right click to select your high poly, hold shift, right click to select your low poly, just make sure that they're selected in that order. And there's a bake options again, normals, tangent, selected to active, don't change anything, just change your margins, and click bake. Alright, there's my normal map done. But looks a little bit fuzzy, but that's okay. I'm not defaced. Let's see, that looks fine. That looks fine. This looks fine. Alright, I'm pretty happy. So, once again, let's just select the high poly. We're going to hide the high poly. I'm going to save this image. Just going to go into my... no, let's just make a new folder over here. We'll call this the concrete tutorial. And call this just the norm. And call it concrete. Norm. Save it as. And that is actually pretty much what we're going to do here at the current moment. I'm not going to bake anything else. You can bake an ambient occlusion. I don't believe that would be necessary for this tutorial, but you can do it anyway. So let us jump over to GIMP. Click GIMP over there. And one more thing I want to do is just in here you'll see there's an option. If you select that and you go into edit mode and you see your UV selected, you can actually export your UV layout. That would make it a lot easier when you're busy painting on something so that you know what you're painting. So I'll call this UV export. Alright, now let's jump into GIMP. So I'm going to open this texture. Open that one, and then open as a layer. We're going to open the UVs. And then my photograph texture, I'm just going to drag in. And I think the layer needs to be scaled a little bit. So let's just scale the image. Let's just, okay, there we go. Scale tool. So you'll see it's fairly high, but we want to keep it roughly the same detail, so we're just going to reduce the height to 2048 by, and then let everything else do its thing. Okay, never mind, it doesn't register like that. You have to scale it manually like this. Okay, let's just drag it in. Just make sure it covers the entire surface area and scale. Okay, so you might think that this is now, we're going to start working on our texture, but first thing you actually want to do is, because we have, I'm going to export this quickly, because we have, we'll call this diffuse test. Because we have seams on our Blender model, those seams are going to look like little cuts in your model, which we quickly want to sort out before we start painting on the model. So let's just go to image, select open. I think it might be best. Let's quickly do material, new, and we'll open the diffuse test that we created. Just make sure that it's color only, and jump over to material. Let's just quickly add a hemi light just to see what it looks like, just so I can give you an idea. So you see that the corners look a little bit cut actually, so we just want to smooth those out. So we're not going to worry about the bottom, it's literally just the sides and the top over here. and only really where it looks like it's bleeding over or looks terrible. So let us go into texture paint mode. What you're going to do is you're first going to select your clone brush. Going to hold Control and left click so that your 3D cursor goes over there, and then you're just going to start painting from the side and then gradually start bringing it over that seam area. Alright, that might not look ideal, but trust me, it will look much better than this horrible seam that's leaking through your model. Also take into account that it does paint according to perspective, so if you have a horrible side view, everything will just not look right. Alright, the last one I'm going to do is we're just going to do the top piece over here. It's okay. And you just repeat the same process on the side over here. Alright, so I'm happy with that. I'm just going to save this image. I'm going to jump back into GIMP. I'm going to open as a layer. We're going to open the diffuse test. And then this photograph reference that we have, we're just going to delete. So you'll see that there, everywhere where the seams are, it added some details. So now I want to take the normal map. We're going to just hide the UV, so we're going to take the normal map. We're going to desaturate it, change it to an overlay, and then just drag it above everything else, and then you can actually see where the details are. You can actually duplicate this as an overlay and it will bring out the details a little bit more. But the only reason I'm really using it is just so I can see basically where the cracks and everything are, because we fixed up the UV layout. I can make straight lines, but I won't be able to see where my cracks and everything else are. So let us just look at that. Then one more texture I want to bring in for our little concrete details. I think that one might be a bit big. So I think I'm going to use this one. Just drag it in. Rotate it, and then also we're going to scale it down. Now we're not going to use all of it on one spot, so I want a piece here at the bottom. Scale. Let's just drag that up. Okay. Let's just try and scale this back up a little bit more. Scale. And then I'm also going to change this to an overlay. Just see what that looks like. It looks okay. Just drag it out a little bit more like that. Okay, so instead of doing overlay, we're just going to do normal, and then we're going to add a layer mask to it. So we're going to do full transparency, and then what we're going to do is just hit your paintbrush, select a white color, select the layer mask there, increase it a little bit. Make sure that we decrease the opacity for the brush, and then you start painting in details that you want. This is so much better if you have a Wacom tablet, which I do, but I'm just showing you guys how to do this with your mouse. Alright. So we're doing all the damaged areas. This area is going to be a little bit more tricky. We might have to import this into Blender again and then just overlay it. Or not overlay it, just clone paint it again. Alright, I'm happy with those details. You can add in a little bit more. You can zoom in. You can start cutting on certain pieces if you want, but I'm happy with that. So I just want to sort out this piece over here still, so I'm just going to just duplicate this layer. And I'm going to delete its layer mask, and I'm going to move it up to over there. This one, move it up to over there. I'm going to make sure its layer mask is full black so that it goes invisible again, and then the same thing, switch to your white and then just do it's a bit big, so I'm going to go a bit smaller. I think I'm going to ignore that side. Maybe increase the brush. And just really decrease the opacity. And then just roughly click just so you can get some color changes there. And the same over here. Okay, that's wrong layer there. Alright, so I am pretty happy with this at the current moment. So if you re-enable your diffuse, you'll see what that looks like. If you disable your normal map, you'll see what that looks like. So I believe the detail that we've added here is pretty good. We can quickly see what this looks like, but first what I want to do is I'm just going to create a new from the visible. So this will now be everything that we did here is now on this new visible layer. And I'm going to create a silly normal map from it. And if you look at it, there is some very, very rough detail there that we want to use. So I'm going to select all of this, copy it, and I'm going to go into open. I'm going to open our normal map again into its own image, and I'm going to paste as a new layer, and I'm going to change this layer to an overlay. And you see it doesn't look much different, but if you actually start zooming in, you'll see that, oh, you got little bump details on top of the normal map that you already baked. So just in case we don't want to use it, we're going to save this as Normalmap test and export it. Alright, excuse the noise in the background, but yeah. So let's just go back here. Going to just make a new from the visible layer as well. And we're going to export that as our diffuse. We're going to jump back into Blender. We're going to replace this texture that we created in the material with our diffuse over there. And we are going to, as you can see there, also just add in our normal map. So new, let's open. Use the normal map test, the second one. We're just going to change its influence from color to normal. Change the quality to best, and I think it's view space. Or is it object space? Texture space. There we go. So you see that some of the details are added. Not quite looking 100% in Blender, but that's Blender itself. I am happy with it. We're going to go into object mode, so right click to select this. This model is essentially 95% done. There are a few things you can add. We can add like a little paint strip or something like this, but just to get close to what our reference image looked like, just different color, this is pretty good. So I'm going to right click on my model. I'm going to hit export to FBX. The selected objects only. -y is the forward. Geometries, we're going to set the edge detect, that's the smoothing group, and that should be it. So let's just go to there. I'm going to call this the final build concrete. Sorry, my finger keeps slipping onto the. I keep wanting to call it the concrete. It's very weird. And we're just quickly going to launch Unreal Engine 4. Let me take a few seconds. There we go. Alright, so hitting import. Let's go to our design drive again. We're just going to import just the FBX, because Blender does actually import some or export some of the textures itself. So let's just import materials, import textures, check there, and click import, and let it take its time. Alright, let's just make sure we open the material. Just make sure, okay, the normal map is in and the diffuse map is in. Let's just see. Alright, there we go. So let's drag this into the world and see what it looks like. And there we are. So that is how you create your concrete barrier. So if you guys like what you saw, please subscribe to my channel. I will be adding more videos. This is just one of many tutorial series that I want to cover. And if you have some pictures of your own things, just drop me a message. Give me a link to the pictures. I will look at it. I will comment on your pictures. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about it. Subscribe and leave a like. And I thank you all very much for watching. Thank you again. Bye bye.